Hey guys, Drewski here, and today we're going to be talking a little bit more about some airsoft. So, I've played airsoft for about 10 years now. I started back in 2008 with some buddies of mine in our backyard, and we started, going to each other's ranches and playing. And then I started getting a little bit more into it and went to MILSIM events, went to private MILSIM events, and so I've been to like huge different places. I've been to like old abandoned airports. I've been to New Mexico. I've been to mount facilities and all over Texas, and been to a lot of different locations to play airsoft. And it's funny because after 10 years of playing the sport, you can still find parts of the sport that you're totally unexperienced in and entirely get humbled by those experiences because you realize that you're terrible at the game. This is what happened when I went over to the Airsoft Palooza event, where I played for the first time in an indoor close quarters field. And there was a lot of stuff that I learned just in one day of playing airsoft, and I think it was a very beneficial day for me because I realized, oh, I need to, kind of train myself with some new ideas here, because usually I'm a guy that's outside, shooting through bushes in the wilderness, being stealthy, using camouflage to my advantage, ghillie suits, you name it. That's my sort of thing. I like the stealth, I like the reconnaissance sort of stuff, but going into a indoor close quarters field was an entirely different game. I felt like I was playing a video game. How fast and how agile I had to be, how quickly I had to scan people to make sure they weren't on my team when I was coming around a corner with a rifle really fast. It was a very interesting experience, and I definitely learned some things from different airsofters that were around me that gave me tips about how to play in close quarters. Jet the Desert Fox and also Greg from Spartan 117GW both told me a lot of tips and tricks to better myself on my first day of close quarters gameplay, because this is an entirely different sort of game mode. It's like playing Battlefield 3 on Caspian border all the time, and you realize, oh wow, this is a huge big map with jets and fighters and tanks and such. And then after playing like 1,000 hours of just Caspian border, you go over to Operation Metro, where it's just grenade spam and there's thousands of people in one room, and the front line isn't going forwards and backwards by hundreds of feet. It's going forwards and backwards by 5 feet, 10 feet even, or a single room in a building. That was what it was like playing in a close quarters field like the one in Houston, Texas at Airsoft Palooza. Luckily, I got the help of a EMG F1 Firearms BDR-15, and you guys might look at this and recognize kind of what it's inspired, or what was inspired from this sort of gun, and that was the Demolition Ranch AR, which is actually going to be coming out, I think, October. There's going to be a Demolition Ranch airsoft rifle now, which looks exactly like and feels exactly like the real thing, which is pretty cool. But this is the more standard version of that is out right now on evike.com. And the guys over at F1 Firearms and Evike were nice enough to let me have this gun to show to you guys and kind of review it for you guys as well, because it's a really cool gun. Aesthetically, I think that this is my favorite gun I've ever had. I think that the gun looks amazing. The key mod rail is really nice with that little grip on the front to have a spot for your hand to go comfortably. You've got a fully skeletonized upper and lower receiver, which supposedly reduces weight. I don't really feel that really much, but I think that it just aesthetically is the reason that you would get it, because it looks so cool. Now, there is some drawbacks of having this really cool looking rifle. The fact that it has no dust cover, as well as the entire upper receiver is open to dust and different particles like rain and anything like that could come in and get into your gearbox. And in airsoft, you don't really want things getting into your gearbox other than some BBs to go through the hop up and barrel. So if you were getting this gun, I definitely would recommend, keeping a keen eye on the weather or the location that you're going to be playing at, especially if you're outside, because let's say you're outside on a rainy day. Well, if you're outside on a rainy day, your gun's gonna get muddy. Over at the American MILSIM Reindeer Games, after I came home, my gun was covered with mud, and it wasn't because I threw it in the mud. It was because I had to go through foliage, I had to go through buildings that were all wet and muddy, and I would grab things with my hands, and then I would put my hand on my gun. I'd basically transport mud or dirt or particles onto the gun. So at the end of the day, my gun was entirely covered with a thin layer of dust and mud and just different muck that I had gathered throughout the day during the event. So definitely, if you were getting this gun, I would only recommend playing outside in a non-dusty location, as well as on a very bright sunny day with no humidity, because if there's any rain, you don't want this gun to be outside. For playing indoors, also, the barrel was quite long, but I got used to it. I'm used to these sort of longer, kind of DMR-sized AR-15 sort of style rifles, because I play with the Crytek SPR usually, and that's probably my favorite gun out of all of them. But definitely for CQB, some of the first things that I learned during the firefights was, first off, if you're going to be competitive in a CQB sort of area, you either need a very bright flashlight with white BBs or you need a very good tracer unit with glow-in-the-dark BBs. Because as you can see in this clip, Jet and Greg from Spartan 117GW, hey, actually, by the way, you guys should go check out their fan film. I think it's coming out I think it's coming out like Monday. But you can see their tracer units, and what they use those tracer units for is to see where their BB is flying. In the middle of the day out in a normal airsoft event that I play, half the time I'm actually using my sight. The other half the time I'm just using the BBs as basically tracers because they're white standard BBs flying through the summer day. They're pretty easy to see when going towards a target. You can actually see them in the zoom cam quite easily. And when it gets darker, you don't really have a lot of light to reflect off of those white BBs. So you either have to have a flashlight that you can turn on so you can kind of see the reflection of the BBs flying towards the target, or you can get a tracer unit, which one, looks super cool, and secondly, is extremely effective at guiding BBs towards targets. That's how I got this like quadruple kill with a pistol that one night. One surviving! There! Woo! And this was the one event that I forgot to bring my tracer unit to. I thought, you know what, it's gonna be indoors, there's gonna be light, why do I need a tracer unit? And then I absolutely fell flat on my face because I was like, man, that would have been so cool. It was interesting because the location was just dark enough that flashlights were pretty effective at blinding you if they came around a corner. And that's another thing too, like, you know, in CQB clearing, you can use a flashlight to really dazzle somebody if you're going to be attacking them. So the SPEEDSOFTers around the field had very, very bright flashlights, or they had them different colors, or they had them flashing. So basically when they came around a corner, it was very confusing to see exactly what was coming around the corner. You couldn't tell if it was a friendly or a foe. And it was most definitely effective at blinding you, just like how it kind of works in some video games that we play. After I was done getting wrecked in the entire CQB field, I went over to the convention area where there were thousands of just airsoft guns lined up in different booths and such, and they really wanted to empty my wallet that day at that place. It was scary. Got to see a lot of different guns. I went over to the PTS booth, KWA booth, and it was really cool to see all the different rifles that are coming soon or new arrivals to the airsoft scene, because there's a lot of genuine just craftsmanship that goes into a lot of these different rifles, and all of them are unique, and there's some that are entirely new designs, and it's just cool to see the hobby and the sport advancing like this. It was definitely a lot of fun going into a indoor field for the first time as well. I mean, I definitely will be going back. I want to learn more. I want to make sure that I'm not a noob at this too. And I want to get better at that part of the sport because I feel like it was really fun feeling like a new airsofter again. And I think that's what's cool about airsoft. And that's what's cool about a lot of hobbies as well, is that no matter how much you train or how much you think you're good at the sport, you can always find a day that you get wrecked and you're like, wow, I need to get better at this. And I always think that's a really cool, humbling experience, especially in airsoft or even video games, when you have a day where you go, okay, you know, I need to fix something, I need to train myself, I need to get better at this, and you can kind of have a little mini game with yourself, trying to get better at something that is totally new to you. It builds character, you know, getting smacked down by an obstacle and having to get back up. But yeah, after this day, I'll definitely come back with some more CQB action for you guys. Definitely going to get a tracer unit, definitely going to get a super bright flashlight, a very close quarters rifle of some sort, maybe like a Vector or something. I don't know. Whatever you guys want. You comment it down in the comment section down below what you'd like me to grab or what I should try for close quarters gameplay. And I'll see you guys in the next one.